This kid, he's been there to all the events, and I've always had a chance to watch it on Facebook, and this kid, just like I said, it's beautiful because he represents the ECC, and then just this fall, I mean, he went to national, New England's and competed very well, so the reputation is expanding, and he's had just a good heart, so I hope he gets ready because it takes a little while.
Well, Arnie, his father, no bigger supporter of game day than him.
Right behind us, right here. Look at that. He's all excited. Listen, Pop, it was amazing that when you were in kindergarten, you couldn't get the kickball over the field, but your son is flying like, was it Speedy Gonzalez?
That's like if I had the tallest kid in the ECC, you have the fastest kid in the ECC. Unbelievable. Max De La Rosa, what a day for him.
I was just telling him how much we were watching videos about, you sent to us and seeing him in the indoor season and how he still holds that same caliber. His belief, his faith system is a part of a factor too because he speaks so well about that. But then now we know the recovery time. First of all, how many pounds of pretzels do you have in the house for him to have it with the Gatorade? Because that's what he wants to eat now. You got a box of Gatorade? Beautiful. Beautiful, man.
Maggie Littler, Avery Mays, and Josephine Withbro. The pack out in front here, 1, 2, and 3, just like they were seated, if you will, and in the lanes they started. So Littler and Avery Mays, the only two to qualify with under 12 minutes.
Right.
And then Withbro right at the 12-minute, 69-second mark. So those three are 11 to 13 seconds faster than the rest of the pack, and they will be setting the pace here today.
Casey, you hit it on point. They go by the laps, and as you can see, these are what we're calling 72 to 75 second laps because of the distance. So you have now the distant coaches that are able to do this, mathematical component of trying to give them the intervals, and you'll see them to be like, hey, you're going too fast, ease it down, stay with this pace so that you can have a kick. Some of these athletes sometimes will try to run it like a 1600 and realize that they won't have that energy to finish off, and that's where you can see that disparity. Right now we do have two clusters, the first top three and then the rest as they continue on this race here. It's amazing how things are slightly clearing out. The number of athletes are actually getting off the track. But there's a special thing that happens in championship racing, and you'll see that in the 400 case. It's to me like a kind of like the New Year's of track. All these athletes, when they see the 4x4 runners, will be on the sideline cheering on. Now, one of the rules is you can't run with them, but you could cheer them on, and that's something that I've seen, as a coach. It's a great relationship of how that team camaraderie is. So as we're working towards the end, we're seeing right now that the point scores tally for the boys, 15 completed out of 18. Norwich Free Academy is still ahead, 117 to 103 over East Lyme. Ledyard has 73, Bacon Academy has 71, Stonington has 64, Woodstock Academy has 60, Fitch has 57, Waterford has 35, and New London has 2.
So a 15 of 18 is because we still have the 3200,
yep, and
the
we
4x4, and the boys are still competing in the high jump.
Yes, as they close that all out and they get it into the internet, that's where we're getting these updates. And with the girls, again, their Woodstock Academy ladies are dominating at 134.5, Norwich Free Academy second at 102, Fitch 78, Ledyard 56, East Lyme 52.5, Bacon Academy 49, Stonington 40, Waterford 38, and New London 29. So, it's still up in the air for the boys. And the ladies right now are just, working through their last races. And as this 3200 continues, the pace, you'll say, they always get worried about 3200 so fast. You'll find out it'll go by quickly as these ladies continue on. And I think we're now in the 4th lap, if I'm not mistaken. I might be jumping the gun, but...
Well, most of these girls run in cross country, and so they're running 3 miles plus.
Right.
So 2 miles is that balance.
Yes.
1 mile can be treated almost like a sprint for some of these runners.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
2 miles involves a little more pacing.
Yep.
It's when you get out to those 3 mile plus races where the whole strategy of and in cross country there's no there's hills and elevation gain and things like that. Here on a flat track, exactly what your 400, 800, 1600 splits are.
That's it, brother. You got it locked down. So when you go back to the basics, 400 high interval, go all out. 800, you're going to have intervals, but it's going to be the highest of both. So if you can knock down 59 to get them under 2 minutes, but then when you get to the 1600, it's a interval that's probably 60 to 61, but that's consistent, and then you want the 32. Every distance coach would love to have their athletes to have those same intervals as it goes across the board.
Yeah, their splits need to be very similar.
Yeah,
you don't want to see a person who fades, and you don't want to see a person who starts off. You're ultimately trying to get 4 splits in the exact same spot, which is your maximum to split it that way.
Yep. And then when they want to categorize how they could develop a 4x8 team, or if during the season when they have those special events like in Tellories have 4x1600, or a DMR, which is the distance of different distances, like a 400 and 800, 1600, those really add up into what coaches could find in their intervals, and they can make those best teams there. So that's how the 4x4 in the end is created, where you see sometimes, like you say, in Stonington, they probably have 2 sprinters running and a couple of distance run. So it mixes up.
So you see Littler and Avery Mays starting to get out ahead a little bit of the pack, and Withbro slightly behind them. So Maggie Littler, only a freshman, out ahead of senior Avery Mays. Mays, who we saw come in second after that brilliant run in the 1600 by Pescatello.
This is what beautiful, because that in track you always sit back and think that your seniors, when they come to 4 years, could be there. But that's the beauty in track. A freshman can come out of nowhere. I was watching the SEC championships with Joe Carter. We get together at night and we watch those meets, and he said, wow, what's amazing is when you look at the SEC championships, in just the 400 alone, there were 5 freshmen. So it's just the way it's developed, when you find a kid that has an itch, or a young kid that competes as a track athlete, and comes out here and becomes a phenom for the league.
Now Littler extending the lead a little bit with longer strides, pushing off the balls of her feet.
Right.
You look at Avery Mays, and her steps are a little tighter. She's on the ball. She's a little more prancy right now, which is, to me, tells me that she's got reserve, and she's just trying to kind of stay in a certain distance away from Littler as we head down the stretch here.
Definitely, it's a style that you could see both of them kind of engage, and also experience. How she's leading the pack, it's just consistency. That technique looks really good. She's not letting up, or she's not accelerating at this time until, she probably gets the call from Coach Tetlow, who's in the start-finish line, and he'll bark it up. So when I look at the coaches that are on the front line, those ones that keep the time, they're like the stock exchange. So you hear these guys go 445, 45, and then 253, and you hear these numbers, and some people may not understand that. But those are the intervals that come across for these athletes.
So right now, Littler is farther ahead of Mays than Mays is of the third place Withbro. So there is a bigger distance between 1 and 2 than there is between 2 and 3. So if you got to think, if Mays is going to make a move, that's alliteration at its finest. If Mays is going to make a move, she's going to have to make that move soon.
As we get down to probably the last 3 laps, that coach has to remind her, you got to get your next interval to be like, say, a 67. That's where you save it. As these coaches are going across, I think they're very happy with the pace. Like, for example, Coach Tetlow always does it in the start-finish line so he could remind her right off the turn. And then there's other coaches that go across and give them the half intervals. But in this one, it seems like it's just that all those coaches are kicking back and letting the girls run.
Littler looking very strong.
Yeah. Amazing day of having records broken, leagues records broken. Just been a great day. Sportsmanship here has been unbelievable. Like, that's one thing that's really great about the ECC championship. These kids knowing each other for the year and then appreciating their efforts.
So Maggie Littler, freshman from Ledyard, leading right now comfortably over Waterford's Avery Mays. Josephine Whitbro is still in third place and is about the same distance as she has been behind Mays, but I think Littler has, again on this lap, increased her distance from Mays. Right at this point here, it's hard to imagine anybody catching Littler.
No, that's pretty much you know, a done deal job. I think in this case, coaches just try to keep those ladies running to keep that pace, secure the points. In this instance, you know, Ledyard will get some points here. They have a person running first and running third. That would help them out, but
where are we with the high jump and the pole vault? I mean, yeah, the high jump.
There's no updates here on the stat sheet. As it looks like it just, yeah. We got, okay, that was good. We got two of the top dogs jumping at 6'6".
They're the only ones left because, and they're the only ones that jumped higher than 6'3". Yeah. Dewanchik got 6'3", but this is Scott and Barros's. You know, that's where they are. They both got the 6'6". So
you imagine that? I could stand on top and then I could give myself a nice little like Jerry curl throw, right? And they could jump over me. You know, it's amazing. How it's phenomenal.
I could wear a king's crown.
Yeah.
On top of a fez.
Or on a rollerblades.
On stilts, and they could jump over.
They could still jump over.
So Littler really now extending the lead.
Amazing job. She's doing a great job with her technique and just taking it to him.
She is almost a full track length ahead of Mays. Mays, however, is extending her lead on third place.
Yeah.
This has been about a perfect race for Littler.
Yep, she's making her way across, lapping the younger athletes there. But she has just done a phenomenal job. This is what's great about when you have these athletes that are dedicated to track, cross country, going into indoor, going into outdoor. The ability to maintain those things and become better at what you're doing, it's a great experience. Said Brody, we have some information about Brody Scott from Waterford. Jumping and clearing 6 feet 6 inches.
Maggie Littler has to be thrilled. Multiple championships so far today, but that one was an individual performance worthy of conversation. Take it away, Josh.
Tell me about the practice of endurance and how do you build such stamina to race for a 2 mile?
The workouts that Coach Tetlow gives us help a lot with like leg speed and picking it up, and really just I guess like all the training that Coach Tetlow has really had us go through has helped like to build the endurance to keep going.
So you also race the 4x8, right?
Yes.
So you race with your sister. Now tell me how you two motivate each other to do stuff like this.
So we have like a really good relationship. It's not like competitive like in a bad way. It's kind of just like pushing each other to be our best in our races, and it's really nice because then I have like a training partner and we really push each other to be the best versions of ourselves at track.
Congratulations again.